Okay, let's get into it. Hope everyone is so far having a good trading week. Hope everyone had a good day today. So, market's moving higher. Market is moving higher. It's funny. I feel like there's no correlation with the market and what's going on in today's world. But as you can see, we're not that far away from all-time highs. I think we might hit it tomorrow, maybe the day after tomorrow. We won't know until we know. So, game plan for tomorrow. Then I'll do a little bit of a recap of today. So, first things first, really across the board, everything is moving higher. There's pros and cons to everything. I would say, at least speaking for myself and how I trade, one of the cons are we're so strong, we're not even pulling back. You know what I mean? We're so strong, we're not even pulling back. You ended up getting the breakout here. You ended up getting the pullback here, but it was like during pre-market. So as soon as we opened at the bottom of the range, it was just straight upside. So I wasn't able to catch that. Now tomorrow, what do you notice today? We got the breakout today. You still need this pullback retest here on SPY. If you go long over SPY, just be cautious because you can see here there's a lot of resistance up here. We're already kind of like in the supply area, but the market is very, very strong. So hopefully we can rip through that. But I think tomorrow, the day after, we definitely make all-time highs this week. So going into tomorrow, what are you looking for? Pull back long if it sets up off of 690.30, or I would really just wait for the break and retest over 697.05 here on the SPY. As for Qs, right, solid here on the Qs. Another name where it's just been so strong. Really just have not gotten a retest, any type of pullback. I don't think, a lot of people expected for the market to just have such a large gap up. You know, uh, we were just consolidating forever, and then we finally got some spillage to the downside, and that obviously got bought up very, very quick. And I don't really think anyone anticipated, how aggressively we would get bought up. I mean, look at that, which is wild. Qs, another name where you can see all we got to do is look left. This was a very strong level of resistance. We turned that into resistance. What was that on Friday? Because today is Tuesday. And then we had a very big day yesterday. And then today, we finally got over that previous day high. And now we're pushing back up into 630. But we still, like I said, you need a retest down here. You want to be long down here. Who knows? We may not get that though. It's been very, very strong. So what is the A plus shot tomorrow? Well, we are breaking outside of this, which is nice. So you're just looking for a break and retest over 630 up into 637 here. That's a $7 gap, right? Which is a pretty big move for SPY and Qs. So this is a really good RR. So tomorrow, I love the confluence here as well because you're also over the previous day high. You're taking a long over a weekly level. If you can get over that, you can definitely see some upside. I would be a little cautious though. All you have to do is look left, and you can see this is a very strong area of resistance. I broke this down yesterday. We pushed up in here twice, and seller stepped in and pushed this thing lower. So the best way to kind of look at this is, it is a history likes to repeat itself, and I'm just going based off, what the information that I have from the past. It's a lot of supply sitting up here, right? There's a lot of sellers sitting up here, so I would be very, very cautious here. But still, the market is very, very strong. So this is a valid shot, right? That's a very valid shot. Your key level, 630, that's your protection. You take that long, that's your stop loss. You lose the trade, you move, you go on. That's what trading is. So only thing I would be looking for tomorrow on the Qs is over 630, but I would be a little cautious for that. Be very cautious for that. That can very likely happen. All you got to do is look left here. So that's the game plan tomorrow on that. So Tesla, I'll break this down a little bit. Another name, right? Today was just a very strong day, and I was just not able to catch a entry here. Even here, what was it today? And I had this in all caps because we know Tesla trended to the downside. Said if Tesla wants to follow the market, we can look for a scalp long off of 355 and right at market open. I mean, look at that. Right at market open, we pulled back to 355 and just shot straight up. So that was the best RR trade. That was a very big trade, and this is what you want to see. Overall, I mean, this is how you get these big trades. As a beginner trader, you have to get to that point where you focus on your skill of trade management. And what I mean by that is, it's very possible to catch these very big days without forcing it. But how do you do that? Right? You scale out of your position, you get to a point where it's a green trade and it can't go red, and you let your runners just hit either, your higher time frame key target or just take you out for break even. So, but this is what you want to see, right? Key level to key level. That's beautiful. That's textbook. And even, I really like this because as you can see here yesterday, I talked about how we shorted off this level. That was just resistance turning into support, right? Break, retest, upside. Beautiful. So tomorrow here on Tesla is fairly simple, right? On the higher time frame, we still are bearish bias. We still are trending to the downside, but don't marry your bias. So what I love about a long over this tomorrow, if that sets up, right? If that sets up, you can see seller stepped in today once we approached 637.35. We broke it by roughly 30 cents and then got smacked down. So still a very strong level. It's a weekly level. But what I like about it is it's also last week's high. So if you get this break and retest and the market wants to continue higher, the way I'm looking at this is you're getting a break and retest over the previous day high, the previous week's high, and you're taking a trade off a weekly level. The higher the time frame, the stronger the level. So those are three confluences right there that makes this a higher probability shot to go long here on Tesla. That looks really good. And then of course, a short is going to be under 355. So fairly simple here. Right, long's over that, short's under this. If you sit in between these two, then it's just a no trade zone. Right, you're just not going to take a trade. You go here on the weekly, you see what I mean here. This is last week's high. So, if you get a break and retest over that, there's really nothing in this way until 382.80. So something that I've taught in the past is you can go into the day with a bias. There's nothing wrong with that. Where you go wrong is marrying a bias. Never marry a bias. Be able to pivot, be able to adapt, read the market, see if there's any confluences, see if there's relative strength, relative weakness, and then you take your shot. So a lot of these names are obviously moving with the market, but still higher time frame is bearish here on Tesla. So if we get a long opportunity over 367.35, I do like that for more upside. But if we reject this, really depends on Qs. The market is strong, but it's not our job to predict. It's our job to react. Like I said, Qs can push up into 630 and get slapped in the face. If that happens, we can't be surprised if we see a daily double top here this week on Tesla off of 367.35 and get smacked in the face again here. So those are your two key levels there on Tesla. Fairly simple. NVIDIA, another name, right? I was looking for this coming into today, and it was just so strong. Could not get a trade. Actually, no. I'm sorry. I take that back. I did take a trade here on NVIDIA. I took a 5% loss. I took a 5% loss. Ideally, actually, let me zoom out here. Give me one sec. Let me zoom out here. This is where I wanted to go long here, right? We broke this down yesterday. It was over 190, psychological whole number, and it was last week's high. So this is where I wanted to go long, and unfortunately, you ended up getting that instant break and retest. Well, you got the break and retest during pre-market. There's nothing you can do about that. Obviously, my thesis was correct, but I have to respect my stop loss, and it was a great stop loss. Best way to put it is that's your risk. That's your reward. That's a great trade. Plan your trade your plan. So coming into today, the bulls were obviously in control. We broke over the previous week's high. We're over the previous day's high. And I'm looking for a continuation play to the upside off a weekly key level. You can see, these 15-minute candles here was a little chaotic here at open. Once it cleaned up, you see we got that push up in 195.60. So solid trade. I mean, that's really the name of the game is doesn't matter how many times you win or lose, as long as your wins are always bigger than your losses. And, catching that big day yesterday on Tesla definitely paid the bills for the week. So since things have been picking up, just being more selective, but trying to step back on the gas. Just got to get back into the flow of things, right? We've had so many cash days. The market's been kind of all over the place. You don't want to get to that point where now you're hesitant to take your shot. So it's been feeling good lately to just see my trade set up. I'm taking my shot no matter what. So nevertheless, that was the game plan coming into today. I really wanted this over last week's high, 190. So what did I do? I was patient. I just waited for my next key level to give me a break and retest, and it ended up playing later into the session. Now, my trade here was really on the reclaim entry. The reclaim entry here, which was, obviously very strong open. We got a candle closer above this. We got a push up into it. We pulled back. I waited for this candle to close, and I entered on this hammer stick candle, risking right under that, and it ended up being like a 5.4% loss. So great shot. And then, resistance, and once we finally got above it, obviously we just rocketed to the upside. But I'm very big on one trade a day and walking away. So nevertheless, what are you looking for tomorrow here on NVIDIA? Well, now you're looking for either a pullback long off of 195.60. We're so strong, you can even look for a long over the previous day high. Now, here's my problem with, the previous day high. I'm glad we're kind of sitting here on the market on NVIDIA so I can give you an example, because I do get access all the time, right? Why don't you take trades off of previous day highs and lows? You can, right? As I always say, there's no right or wrong way to trade. But here's my problem with it. Let's say I take a long off of the previous day high. I'm doing my analysis from the higher time frame. So what is the thesis behind going long over 195? Well, if we go long over 195, if price gets over 195, we can see more upside. The problem I have with a long over the previous day highs, let's say I take a break and retest above it and then I get stopped out. The reason I don't like it is I got stopped out, but my thesis has not been invalidated yet. This is where my thesis is invalidated if we fall back under 195.60. So I'm very big on one trade a day, like I always say. So I treat that one trade like I got one in the chamber, right? Life or death shot. So to me, this is kind of just a waste, air quotes on the waste of a trade here of my one shot, because yeah, it may work out. It really depends. You got to read the price action, wait for some strong momentum. If that sets up, hey, I don't mind taking that. I got to see very strong confirmation, but I just don't like that. Man, I got stopped out the previous day high. And then let's say we end up pulling back and we hold 195.60 and then we get that push to the upside. I just took a loss on a trade where my thesis was not invalidated. So I just wanted to use that moment to break that down. So, NVIDIA is obviously very, very strong right now. We finally broke the range break. You can see 192.95, very, very solid. So what are we looking for here? Well, just pull back longs at this point. We ended up breaking this on the daily. We still need to pull back and retest that. So I'm looking for this tomorrow, right? Really looking for this 195.60. And then, if we can't get a trade 195.60, let's say we just open up here and then we get a pullback long off the previous day high, I'm willing to give that a shot as well, but I need strong price action. So that's really the game plan tomorrow on NVIDIA. AMD was on the close watch as well. Just could not get an entry. AMD break and retest over 249.80. You can see we got that break and retest over 249.80, but it gave you the reclaim entry. And like I've specified yesterday, that's really what this market has been giving us lately. The reclaim entries have so far been the best ones. You got a candle closure above your key level, so now you just wait for the reclaim, and you can see around 820, you got that candle closure with momentum, beautiful reclaim entry over our key level, and that thing just went straight to the upside, pretty much zero pullbacks until we got back up to the high day. So solid trade there on AMD if you were able to catch that. So we got the breakout here on the daily. What am I looking for? Pull back long off of that. That's still valid. And then very simple here, break and retest over 256.10 on AMD. And I was watching AMD. AMD honestly played out very, very well. When you understand, how price action works and you get used to reading the market and liquidity, it does become a little easier. So I just didn't like the price action at open on AMD. You can see, the first 30 minutes, these are some big wicks, big candles on the 15. But I knew what AMD was doing, which was filling the gap. All it did was fill the gap, and once it filled the gap, it reclaimed the previous day high, and then you can see we got that beautiful rocket to the upside. That's all it did. So you see the straight downside, you may think, okay, cool, this is out the window. The only reason I said I'm not taking this is just really due to, kind of this price action. All right, started to range a little bit, but then as you can see, it ended up cleaning up, and then we got that move higher. But this yellow line here, that's the previous day close. We opened up here. So all we did was pull back. You can see we ended up filling the gap. Had a nice little liquidity grab here. Once we filled that gap, we ended up holding that previous day close. We got right back over that previous day high, right? Boom. And then we ended up just seeing that move to the upside. I liked the reaction that I had here off my higher time frame key level. You can see the reaction. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's exactly what you want to see. So for me, I wanted that move. If you may be thinking, well, Kel, why didn't you take a trade off the previous day high? Well, this is really, off the previous day high. This is really the great reason why, because it's not a good RR. Before we turn this level into support, what was it? Resistance. So what do you notice? We did hold the previous day high, but look at us. We pushed right into our daily resistance level and got smacked in the face. I don't want that. You got pushed again, and then you got smacked in the face. So that's not a good RR. What's the better RR? Over this, because there's nothing in this way to the upside. And then once you zoom out, look at that. Nothing in this way to the upside. You got that push all the way up pretty much to 255, 256. So that's all you're looking for there for tomorrow on AMD. Is fairly simple here. Either just that continuation play, right? Long over 256.10. I love the confluence because you're also over the previous day high, or a pullback long here off of 249.80. As for the side watches, Amazon, dude, I cannot catch this name. Everything's just been rallying to the upside. If you go here on Amazon, very strong too, looks good for a pullback long off of 241.55. Plan your trade your plan. We got that pullback long off of 241.55, but you got the break during the pre-market. And then look what happens as soon as we open, just straight upside. You went from key level basically up to key level. So I just cannot catch an entry. But right now, not going to FOMO into anything. And then you can see a very strong day here. Look at that. Beautiful. Break, retest over 247.85. Nice. And then you got that push up in the 252. So just very nice just to see, key levels get respected here. So what are you looking for here on Amazon? Well, this thing is almost back near all-time highs here as well. I'll zoom out here on the daily time frame just to give you a better visual. But we broke this. We still need to retest this on the daily. So who knows if we'll get that tomorrow? We won't know until we know. But you're really just looking for pullback long over 247.85. or a break and retest over the previous day high as well. But ideally, I would really like a long here off of my higher time frame key level on Amazon. Now, if you go here on the daily, look at this thing. It's just so strong. You got so many gaps in here. We gapped up today. You got this gap here. You got this gap here. It's just been a straight rally to the upside. So what do you notice about all these daily candles? You just have not gotten a retest. Like I said, yesterday, this was on my close watch list. Ended up just skipping this trade because I don't like the price action at open, but you got a nice break and retest here on the daily time frame. That's textbook. And then you can see today just ripped, and we opened with another gap. So we just had a gap and go type of day here. But what do you notice? We are not that far away from all-time highs. And we just made new highs on the year, actually, at least for this year. Let me zoom out here. Yeah, today we made new highs on the year, which is wild. So only took us 4 months, but crazy recovery here on Amazon. When you just zoom out and look at this, earnings really kicked Amazon in the face. We're at 258. We ended up having this crazy gap down. We consolidated for a bit, as you can see here. And then since then, it's just been crazy upside. wild. And we are almost back near all-time highs here on Amazon. So obviously just looking for pullback long entries. So you're really just looking for a long over 247.85 or a break and retest over the previous day high tomorrow. I mean, this is really, honestly, this is really the spot to be long. It's really here. You want to be long here before you get way up here. You know, all-time high is not that far away. You can see Amazon, this thing is moving. It's rallying. So you're really just trying to catch a dip, but it's been so strong. At least for myself, I have not been able to. Microsoft. So Microsoft is interesting. I'm going to break this down a little thoroughly here. Very beautiful, honestly, I would say on Microsoft. Maybe it's just me. You guys know I love this. So let's break down Microsoft because tomorrow, this 392.30, sorry, this 392.30 is going to be a very, very key level here. So today we actually got the retest. Sorry, we actually got the retest. I have this labeled retest needed. This is beautiful. Look at that. We treated this as a no trade zone for obvious reasons. Why? Because we were just sitting in a range here on the weekly. What is that? That's the breakout candle. That's displacement. Break, retest. Today we got that retest. I'll zoom in here on the daily so you can see seller stepped in. Because you can see, you know, we're still in this downside here on Microsoft. All you got to do is zoom out on the daily. Something else that I noticed if this sets up is you got this nice little bear flag, right? So we can still see some continuation lower here. So right today we got that retest here on Microsoft off of our key level. So when you go here on the daily, you can see sellers did step in. I'm gonna go here on the 15-minute as well. You know, we pushed up into it, rejected. We peaked above it, fell very, very hard. So tomorrow the key line in the sand is going to be this 392.30, but to both ways. Right? And I'll explain why. So that's why I have here long or short off of this, but you got to read QQQ. What is Q's going to do? Now, this is last week's high. I don't have this as a level to trade off of, but just to show where we are officially above last week's high. Now, let's go here on the daily, and this will make a little bit more sense here. So today, it offered us our retest. You can see we ended up breaking here, got that retest, right? That's solid. This was our no trade zone for obvious reasons. Now, we are recovering. So we won't know until we know, right? If we see some more downside tomorrow and Microsoft stays heavy, well, that was just because we got the break and retest on the weekly time frame. And you can see that would still be us stair stepping lower. But if we reclaim this, the bottom of the range, what is that? Well, that's starting to look like a V-shaped recovery to me. That's a break of structure, that's for sure. So if we are long on Microsoft, you want to be long over 392.30, key level in the bottom of the range before what? You get to, say it with me, the top of the range here. So that's very, very key here. So you got to read it. Got to read it. Be patient. 392.30, that's the key level to watch. Either you're going to get a short off of that, a break and retest under that, and you can definitely see some more downside because then we're just moving lower, or we're going to get a nice displacement candle. That's your break of structure, and then you look for your long over 392.30. Like I said, that's a start of a V-shaped recovery. If you want to be more conservative, you can definitely just wait for the range break over 404. That's undeniably right, a V-shaped recovery and a break of structure. There's no doubt about that. So 392.30, that's the key line in the sand tomorrow here on Microsoft. What do? Do we reject it? Do we get above it and hold it? And you can see here today, you know, we had a little bit of a war today with the Bulls and the Bears, right? That was a decent battle. On the daily, the Bulls definitely won. You can see strong here. That's a strong daily candle for the Bulls. So there's no doubt about that. But another name that just gapped up. We just gapped up here. So we'll see what sets up here on Microsoft. But your key level is going to be 392.30. Do you long off of that or do you short off of that? We won't know until we know. But just be prepared to focus on that level. And then Palantir. So Palantir is also a very interesting name here. So let's go here to the 15-minute. Again, beautiful. Just beautiful. If you were able to catch this, kudos to you. Let me go here on the... Well, actually, I can stick here. So this is beautiful. This is like, and I'm going to use this as a lesson for you guys and break this down a little thoroughly too. And this is why, you know, I always say you have to know your identity as a trader and then stick with it, right? You can't deviate away from your system because it's going to be very hard to be consistently profitable with that. Now, let me explain this way. Now, let's say you were looking for a trade over the previous day high. You can see we got over the previous day high. That would have been very solid, right? That would have been a solid trade, a nice scalp. You got to push up into 137. As I always say, there's no right or wrong way to trade. But you tell me, right? What's the better RR? A push up into that or waiting for the short off of that? And now you have this as your potential downside. Because if you got in here for your short and you left some runners, and as you know, those can turn into swing trades, you're still under 137.70. Your thesis has not been invalidated. So let's say your runners turn into that. Well, look at you now, right? You just turned that very small gain or a decent win into a 10 times bigger win. I hope that makes sense. Now, why am I saying all of this? Higher time frame. Look at that. What is that? That's the break. That was the retest. That was beautiful. Break, retest. Remember, as I always say, the break and retest happens on every single time frame. The higher the time frame, the stronger, the better. So let's go here on the daily. we did very good avoiding Palantir because it was ranging, sitting in a no trade zone. We still haven't gotten the retest here, but we broke that. We still got to retest that. But we ended up gapping under, turning into resistance for a while. We ended up breaking under here. As you can see, was support, resistance, support, support. We broke it. Good displacement candle. We pulled down to our key level here. Hammer stick. Retest. Beautiful. And I mean, look at the candle today. That's a daily candle. That's a hammer stick candle right off our key level. So that's just a good old-fashioned break and retest. Patient pace. So the game plan for tomorrow here on Palantir, or in the near future, it depends. There's two ways to go about this now. So you can go long over 137.70 now. Why? Well, we've already completed the objective. We got the break. We got the retest. Objective completed. But what do you notice here? Actually, let me zoom out here just a little bit. What do you notice here? Well, on the week, right? Let's speak about on the week. So far this week, we are bullish for the week, right? Today was Tuesday. This was Monday. So higher high for the week. I'm also noticing this little trend. Undeniably, this little trend setting up here. That is a trend being respected. So there's two ways to go about this. Break and retest over 137.70. That is very nice. You're also over the previous day high, which is a great confluence. You can see so far this week, the bulls are in control. For now, we won't know until we know. It's still early. It's only Tuesday. Or break and retest under the previous day low. Look at that RR trade. That's a solid trade. It's already proven to us before, as I always say, history likes to repeat itself, that once we break under 137.70, we can see a pullback to 125.40. We've already seen it. We went from here all the way to 122.68. So what is that? Well, that's a break of structure. That's a trend line break. What's the confirmation? We've already rejected the top of the range. You got the break here. You got the retest here. Continuation. Now, your continuation, which is your pretty much your dip buy, is under the previous day low here and a trend line break. So that's very solid here on Palantir. I hope all of that made sense. So very simple here tomorrow on Palantir, what you're looking for. Longs over 137.70. You're not fighting the trend. You can see that would just be us moving higher with the overall market. And if it wants to stay heavy, price is likely to continue lower if we're under the previous day low. And it's also a whole number. I love it. If you like it, I love it. So that's the game plan tomorrow on NVIDIA. I'm sorry, on Palantir. You're going to watch 137.70 for longs, or you're going to watch 134 for shorts. If you may be thinking, all right, Kel, well, if the bears are in control, why not look for a pullback short off of 137.70? You definitely can. I just don't like it because now we'll just be looking at a daily double top on the week. And it's an inside bar day. Of course, right, we're still trading with the higher time frame, but to me, this is just a better confirmation because it's a trend line break and you're under the previous day low. Those are great confluences there on Palantir. So hope this helps, and I will see you guys on the next one.